During the Vietnam War, one aircraft suffered the least amount of damage, even though it had been on some 4,000 combat sorties. Only 6 of them were lost to enemy action. That aircraft was the F-111 Aardvark, a swing-wing, medium-range, multi-role combat aircraft that started in service in July 1967. And although it had a bit of a shaky start, the aircraft, ordered by Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara to cover both the needs of the USAF and the US Navy in one aircraft, became one of the USAF's most trusted assets. This is the story of the Pig, as it was known to the Australian Air Force, and why it was such a groundbreaking aircraft. In the early 1960s, the USAF were looking to replace their Republic F-105 Thunder Chief fighter bombers, and around the same time the US Navy were looking for a replacement for their F-4 Phantoms and F-8 Crusaders. Both services wanted their own individual aircraft tailored to their needs, but by now the costs of developing new aircraft for each of the services were spiralling out of control, and the newly appointed Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, was determined to do what he had done at the Ford Motor Company and streamline the process by using one common aircraft for both services. McNamara, who was brought in along with others to streamline manufacturing and management at the Ford Motor Company before becoming its president for a short while, was drafted in by the J.F. Kennedy administration in 1961 to be the Secretary of Defense. Shortly after taking office in 1961, McNamara gave the go-ahead for the Tactical Fighter Experiment, or TFX, to come up with one aircraft that could be used by both services, despite their best efforts to keep their programs separate. It was agreed that the design would be based on the Air Force's requirements and a modified version would be used for the Navy. Proposals went out to the leading aviation companies, including Boeing, Lockheed, McDonnell, North American, General Dynamics, and Republic. Boeing and General Dynamics were selected to submit enhanced designs. The Air Force preferred the Boeing option, and the Navy disliked both of them. But the selection board picked the Boeing 818 for going forward. However, in 1962, McNamara selected General Dynamics over Boeing because it had a much greater commonality of parts between the Air Force and Navy versions, which would keep the costs down. General Dynamics signed the contract in December 1962, and the proposal would become the F-111. The most revolutionary feature of the F-111 was the swing wing, and it was a result of years of research by NASA to create a wing that would work well both at low speed and at high transonic and supersonic speeds that could be put reliably into production. By 1958, NASA had come up with a way to optimize the swing wing design with pivot points further out from the aircraft centerline, and Air Force leaders were encouraged to look at using this. Swing wing designs had been tried before, such as the 1952 Grumman XF-10F Jaguar for the US Navy, but that prototype had so many other issues it was cancelled before put into production. General Dynamics also shared the design with Grumman, who had greater experience with carrier-based aircraft, and also brought their swing wing technology experience. In fact, it was reported that the swing wing was the only thing that worked well on the Grumman XF-10F Jaguar. The project was known as the F-111, but didn't have an official name like the F-4 Phantom or the F-8 Crusader. It was given the nickname Aardvark by instructor pilot Al Makshans in 1969 because of its long drooping nose and terrain-following radar, which was used to follow the ground for very low-altitude, high-speed flight. Aardvark is an Afrikaans word for a South African mammal with a long nose that sniffs out its food along the ground and translates into ground pig in English. The Australian Air Force, the RAAF, when they received their F-111Cs, shortened that to the more undignified name of the Pig. While the F-111 Aardvark used radar to sniff out the ground for high-speed, low-altitude flight, while you're working your way around the internet, you need a loyal wingman to help you keep a low profile. And this is where today's sponsor, NordVPN, comes in. NordVPN combines both threat protection features with a VPN service. So not only can you hide your computer's real IP address, you can stop trackers, block malware and intrusive adverts, and now NordVPN also includes a dark web monitor that will check known hacker hangouts to see if your details are showing up, even if you're not using the VPN feature. I use NordVPN because it allows me to visit websites in the US for research, but without being geographically blocked, because some ISPs still think the UK is in the EU. Spoiler alert, we haven't been in it for over 4 years now. Now you can do the same to view sports channels, movies and TV that you might not have access to in your country, and it can be used on up to 6 devices at once, which is great for the whole family. Act now and get my exclusive NordVPN 2-year deal plus 4 months extra for free by using the link nordvpn.com/curious-droid, which is at the top of the description below. And there's even a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's risk-free as well. With advanced electronics, swing wing configuration and afterburning turbofan engines, it would give the F-111 unrivaled abilities that included attack, interdiction, strategic bombing, reconnaissance and electronic warfare. But the F-111 project was also meant to save costs, and with such a lot of new technology being packed into a single aircraft, it soon became clear that the development was going to be a lot more costly in both time and money than anticipated. Advanced features like the Terrain Following Radar, or TFR, was integrated into the flight control systems and allowed hands-off flight at high speeds and low levels down to just 200 feet or 61 meters. The unique feature of the swing wing configuration would give the F-111 the ability to fly at low speed, take off from short runways and cruise more economically with its wings forward. With the wings closed and pulled back, it became almost a delta wing aircraft and could fly at Mach 1.2 at sea level and 2.3 at altitude, but it wasn't a nimble dogfighter. Due to the use of every available clear space in the aircraft fuselage and wings for fuel tanks, it had a range of 3,690 miles or 5,940 kilometres with external drop tanks, minimising its reliance on refuelling tankers, and had a service ceiling of almost 66,000 feet or 20,000 metres. The twin Pratt & Whitney TF30 turbofan engine were the first to have afterburners and produced almost 18,000 pounds of thrust dry and 21,000 pounds of thrust with the afterburner to give it a very high turn of speed, something which the unarmed electronic warfare version, the EF-111 Raven, relied upon to outrun its adversaries. One of the other unusual features was the 2-man side-by-side crew capsule, which would be ejected by rockets in one piece from a maximum altitude and speed down to a 0 altitude and just 92 kilometers an hour. This would keep the crew safe from the dangers of a high-speed ejection at up to Mach 2.3 and included a 10-minute supply of oxygen independent of the aircraft. It also included stabilizers and a brake parachute to stop it from spinning out of control before the main chute opened. If it landed in open water, it was self-righting and watertight with flotation devices and a radio location beacon for rescue purposes. To make maximum use of the low-speed takeoff and landing abilities of the swing wing, the aircraft undercarriage was designed to be able to take off from short, unmade runways in the Air Force version and was reinforced for the Navy version to withstand the heavy landings and assisted launches from an aircraft carrier. The F-111A would be for the USAF and the F-111B would be for the US Navy. The only difference between them would be the strengthened landing gear, the greater wing length, and the nose cone, which was shortened by 2.5 meters so it would fit into existing carrier elevator decks. In the first production run, there will be 18 Air Force A versions and 5 Navy B versions. However, the Navy was forced into making compromise after compromise, and tensions between them and the contractors were running high. The requirements made by the Navy included a large 48-inch or 120cm radar dish mated to the AWG-9 radar with AIM-54 Phoenix missiles alongside a longer loiter time, and combined side-by-side crew capsule kept the weight higher than the Navy wanted, even after an extensive weight loss program had been initiated. When asked by Senator John C. Stennis in a congressional hearing on the aircraft if more powerful engines would cure the aircraft's problems, Vice Admiral Thomas Conley, then Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Air Warfare, responded by saying, "There isn't enough power in all of Christendom to make that aircraft what we want." The Navy finally lost patience with the F-111B and cancelled the programme in 1968. Prior to that point, Grumman had already got wind of the Navy's discontent and started development of a new naval aircraft that would do everything the F-111B would do, but at a lower weight and satisfy the Navy's demands. This would use the same swing wing, engines and radar, but added an M61 Vulcan cannon and provisions for Sidewinder and Sparrow air-to-air missiles and bombs. This replacement would eventually become the Navy's F-14 Tomcat. While the Navy's F-111B floundered, the Air Force was keen to test the F-111A in combat to prove itself and its advanced technologies in the Vietnam War. The operation was codenamed Combat Lancer and involved sending 6 F-111As from Nellis Air Force Base over 7,000 miles via a trans-Pacific route to the Tak Lee Royal Air Force Base 85 miles north of Bangkok, Thailand. Their first mission was to target a bomb dump on Tiger Island on the coast of South Vietnam. They flew in at night over the sea and at high speed in a low-level pass on the 25th of March 1968, and although there was heavy cloud, the mission and others flown that night were considered to be a success. More missions were flown over the next few nights until the 28th of March 1968, when F-111A, serial number 660022, disappeared. Although there was an intense search and a generous reward offered, neither the crew nor the aircraft wreckage were ever recovered. Then, just 2 days later, a second F-111A, whilst descending from 10,000 feet, lost control and ended up in an uncontrolled roll. The crew ejected safely and were picked up less than a mile from the crash point by an Army helicopter rescue team. The wreckage was located, and after an initial inspection, it was sent back to the General Dynamics factory, where, with the help of a crew and a simulator, they were able to duplicate exactly what had happened. It was determined that a catastrophic structural failure of the tailplane system was caused by a fatigue fracture. If that wasn't bad enough, a third accident occurred on the 22nd of April 1968 and another at Nellis Air Force Base on the 8th of May 68. By this time, the Combat Lancer mission had been suspended and then terminated. In December 1969, again at Nellis Air Force Base during a training mission, an F-111A with just over 100 hours flight time on the clock was pulling up from a rocket-firing pass when the left wing of the aircraft detached from the main body, causing it to crash. In the following investigation, again, fatigue cracks were found, this time in the wing pivot, which was present in the D6AC steel when manufactured. The process of ultrasound testing was found to be inadequate, and also the hardening process of the D6AC steel was found to have too much variation depending upon the quench rate, which could lead to cracks. And although they were very small, they couldn't be picked up by the test equipment, but could still lead to failure once in service. By 1969, new manufacturing techniques were implemented and the problem was eventually solved, although 11 more failures were induced on the ground as opposed to in flight. By this time, the press and Congress were both condemning the aircraft as unreliable and unsafe, but to the Air Force, the operations in Vietnam proved that one aircraft could have twice the range with twice the payload, 20% more speed, and significantly higher navigational, bombing accuracy, required no tanker support, electronic countermeasure support, and no fighter escort, all of which provided a substantial cost saving. During the rest of the Vietnam War, the F-111 flew more than 4,000 combat missions with a loss of only 6 to enemy fire, the lowest of any aircraft during the conflict. The F-111 would be used again in April 1986 to conduct airstrikes against Libya in Operation El Dorado Canyon, alongside B-52s, FA-18s, A-6 Intruders and A-7 Corsairs. Here, 24 F-111 strike aircraft and 5 EF-111A Ravens, the electronic countermeasure versions, flew a round trip between RAF Lakenheath and RAF Upper Heyford in the United Kingdom to Libya, a journey of some 6,400 miles or 10,300 kilometres spanning 13 hours. Just one F-111 was lost over Libya after being shot down and crashing into the Mediterranean. Then in 1991, the F-111 saw active service again during Operation Desert Storm, completing 3.2 successful strike missions for every one unsuccessful one, a sortie rate better than any other US strike aircraft used during the operation. During Desert Storm, 66 F-111Fs dropped almost 80% of the laser-guided bombs, including the bunker-busting GBU-28, and were credited with destroying more than 1,500 Iraqi tanks and armoured vehicles using precision-guided munitions. Although the F-111s were outstanding aircraft during the Desert Storm operation, they made up just 9% of TAC's fleet, but took up 25% of the maintenance budget. Eventually, the writing was on the wall for the F-111s, and after nearly 30 years in service, it was retired. It was only at the ceremony marking the F-111's retirement on the 27th of July 1996 that it was officially named Aardvark, its long-standing unofficial name which had been used since 1969. In 1972, Grumman were contracted to convert 42 airframes at a total cost of $1.5 billion into the EF-111A Raven, the electronic warfare version, which could be distinguished by the large pod on the top of the tail fin. These were unofficially called the Sparkvark, a play on the Aardvark name. The Ravens would be used as a penetrating electronic jamming aircraft with supersonic speed, and although they had no armaments, their speed and acceleration were their main form of self-defence. The Raven also saw service in Libya in 1986 and the Gulf War during Operation Desert Storm in 1991. The Ravens stayed on in service until 1998, when they were also retired from service. The F-111 had a shaky start, but eventually became one of the US's most trusted military assets. It was the first production variable geometry wing aircraft, and its success led to many other swing wing designs both in the US, Europe and the Soviet Union, where the design heavily influenced the MiG-23 and other Soviet swing wing aircraft of the era. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, then please thumbs up, share and subscribe, and a big thank you goes out to all of our patrons for their ongoing support.